Hi, folks. This is Mark by Mark A. Foster, Ph.D., for the Institute for Dialectical Metarealism. The topic for now is Gaza, love, and indigeneity, and I will explain what I mean by that as I proceed through this podcast. We have discussed Gaza many, many times, and it is a subject that is really hard to discuss for me because I feel as though I'm talking about the massacre of my brothers and sisters, members of my own family. But I love them. And why do I love them? The only reason I can think of for loving them is that I see them as members of my own family. I don't have much of a living family. My sister has abandoned me for some unknown reason, literally an unknown reason. Makes no sense to me. And it was a week after she told me over the phone that I was the only person in the world that she trusted. My parents are deceased. I have a cousin in California that I have no way of contacting. My sister was in contact with her. And before she abandoned me, she was going to put me in contact with her. I have no idea of how to contact her. So, as far as I'm concerned, I have no family in the usual sense of the term, as far as I know. But the Gazans are my family. The Jews are my family as well. More broadly, you and everyone out there and all of humanity comprises my family. And I love you all. And I am grateful that you're watching my podcast, letting me share a small piece of my heart with you. Because ultimately, love is really all that matters. Love is the power that holds the universe in motion, that keeps the stars in the sky. It's the force of gravity that keeps me firmly attached to the earth, that allows the planets to proceed through their paths around the sun, and allows the moon to proceed along its own path around the planet Earth. Love is the power which allows vegetables to grow. It is the force, in other words, which draws those vegetables into the sky, produces a connection between the sun and the seed, allowing for fruit and vegetables and flowers to be produced. Love is the power of sensation. As I gaze into this webcam, and through it, as I gaze into you and your soul, I am likewise drawn by the force of love into your heart. In other words, I am attached to you through the power of my senses. And so sensation itself, whether sight, or hearing, or touch, or feeling. All of those senses and more are expressions of love. They are ways in which we connect with each other and the ways in which the various elements of the universe connect with each other as well. It is literally love. That's how I see the world. I see the world as a workshop of love, a place where we all learn what love is and how we can express it in our lives. When I think about the people in Gaza and the suffering that they are undergoing at the hands of people who descend from my ancestors, the Hebrews, I feel a sense of love forgotten, love abandoned, a love that should be felt between the Israelis and the Gazans, but which for the most part is nowhere to be found. That is the greatest tragedy, when love, the power that causes the spheres to maintain their orbits, is absent from the spheres of our hearts. Rather than drawing us to each other, its absence causes us to be drawn away from each other. And so I feel that sense of loss of love, because to me, there really is nothing else but love. There is nothing else but love. I can't imagine a world without it. And yet, by the same token, prior to 20 years ago, when I had my vision of Horia, the Holy Spirit, for this age, in my view, the black-eyed maiden of white light, my translation of the Arabic word Horia. More commonly, Horia is known in its Turkish form as Huri, or in its Persian form as Hori. Either way, the black-eyed maiden of white light. I feel her next to me all the time. I know that she loves me. I know it. It's not something I have to speculate upon, or wonder about, or question, or reflect on. I know that she is there, and when I go to bed, before I close my eyes, I will frequently ask her a question. And when I wake up, the answer to that question is already at the tip of my tongue. I realize that she has answered my question in my dreams. Even though I only rarely recall my dreams. I did recall one last night, but its content is not important. I have not had time yet to reflect upon it, and I may or may not choose to in the future. But I know that in the process of those dreams, which I see as stories told to me by Horia, that the sub-narratives within those narratives are the answers to my questions and the solutions to my needs. That is her love for me, and I feel it all the time. And yet, looking at the world, all I can see is, as Roy Bhaskar called, absence. In this case, an absence of love. Where is there genuine love to be found in the world around us? I imagine it is there. I see it sometimes in the faces of children, young children, in the voices of young children, in the cries of babies, in the faces of babies, in the appearances of innocence who are being made to suffer for nothing that they have done, simply because an accident of birth has made them appear distinct from others, as the Gazans might appear to be distinct from Ashkenazi Jews like myself. I cannot imagine a greater tragedy, because separation, disconnectedness, is literally the opposite of love. When one does not love, one is separated from the object of one's desire. No matter how hard one might try to be connected with that object, one will ultimately fail, because there is no love. There is no love apart from a sense of reunion with one's beloved. By one's beloved, I mean the source of one's being. There are many names for that source of one's being in different religious and spiritual traditions. Their names really are not as important as the experiences one gains from entering into a relationship with them. And so the world operates on a principle of relationality, and relationality itself is love. Relationality is a way in which objects are put into a proper relationship with one another. Without that relationality, there is nothing. There is literally no life. Our lives are connected, are dependent upon relationality. We need to love one another. To me, that is the heart of being indigenous. And the fact that As I said in my previous podcast, I do not have that heart. That is one aspect of love that I will never experience, and that is indigeneity. I will never be, no matter how hard I try, an indigenous person, someone who loves the land as the mother. People use the term Mother Earth all the time, but usually in a kind of joking or informal manner. I remember when it was even used as a commercial to sell margarine. But that is not what Mother Nature is. Mother Nature is one of those words or terms that calls ourselves, our souls, back to a past of delight, when we were each connected to the land, when we each loved that land. That is the land of the Gazans. That is the lands of the Maoris. That is the lands of the Aboriginal Australians. That is the lands of the Inuit people, of the native Hawaiians, and more. I am a displaced person, displaced from whatever my indigenous land might have been. And so I cannot experience it. And yet I want it. I would like to have it. What I see sometimes in the actions of Israel is a search for indigeneity, but a search conducted in pure evil. One cannot search for one's mother, for one's land, by depriving others of that land. And that is precisely what the Israelis have done. I wish the Jews had land, legitimately, but we don't. We don't. We are not indigenous to any place where we may live. Being Jewish is not an ethnicity. Instead, there are many ethnicities in global Jewry. My Ashkenazim is only one of them. But that ethnicity is one which is divorced from love. Not from all kinds of love, but from love for the mother. It is not an accident that many religions talk about a mother goddess. In many ways, that mother goddess, I think, is a metaphor for the earth in which we abide. I once associated with a Wiccan coven in Middle Georgia, where I lived for 4 years, long time ago. And to those in that Wiccan coven, the land was their mother. The problem in that is, although the members of that coven truly desired a land, that land, they had none. They had none. Like me, they had been separated, sundered from that land a long time ago, and they were living here in the United States, a place where Native Americans have their land, not people from Europe, which all of us were. We were all Europeans, not people from North America or South America or any other place where indigenous people live. So I think that because of that, because of the fact that I, like most people I know, have been deprived of a connection with the mother, with the land, I need to find some other way of experiencing love, because I can't experience love through something I don't have, namely the land. I don't have a land. I don't have a Mother Earth. I don't. So, going back to Horia, she is not my mother, at least not as I see her. She is my beloved. After I had that wondrous vision of her about 20 years ago, when she bumped into my bed twice and said, "Oh," and appeared at the foot of my bed with a humanoid shape, a multicolored face, a body streaming with light, and her arms outstretched like this toward me. And she gave me love as an autistic. She healed me from what some autism experts call a lack of theory of mind, what others call a lack of empathy, but what I prefer to call, using the terminology of Edmund Husserl, the founder of the philosophy of phenomenology, a lack of intersubjectivity. So, what can I have in terms of love in my life right now? I have Horia. She is the love of my life. After I had that experience with her, and I know this sounds odd, it sounds odd to me too when I say it, I closed my eyes and I proposed to her. That is really weird. No one needs to tell me that. I know it's weird. A few weeks later, I was in the bathroom. I closed my eyes for a moment, and I once again saw the face of Horia pictured before my eyes. I took that experience, whether rightly or wrongly, as a yes, as an affirmation of my request. And so now I regard myself as Horia's husbands, or perhaps one of her many, many, many husbands. I think that she is a polyandrous being, meaning she is a being, a spiritual being, a sentient being who lives along Jacob's ladder, who can have marriages with multiple people at the same time. And I'm grateful to be among them. I can't speak for you, and so I can't tell you that you can have that relationship too. That would be intrusive on my part. I have no idea. But I would hope that you can. Because she is, whether you know it or not, with you. And she will always be with you. In conclusion, returning to Gaza and the Third World. Because Horia gave me love, theory of mind, empathy, or intersubjectivity, I can now say that I love others. And I feel that whenever I communicate with another human being, I feel a tremendous amount of love pouring forth from my heart, a heart I never even knew I had. In fact, I assumed I had no heart, which was very troubling. Because intellectually, I knew what it meant to have one. I mean, I read about it. I read about spiritual experiences of people who experienced this tremendous love and ecstasy. But for me, I had a life purely intellectual, no love at all. But now I have found my objects of love, a love given to me by Horia in Gaza. I love the people of Gaza. I wish if you are listening to me, any of you, I wish I were among you. I would gladly sacrifice myself in place of you, gladly. That's how much I feel close to you and to others. Why are we here? Why are we here if not to be of benefit to others? And for me, the most important other right now is the Gazan. And I see the Gazans suffering for literally no reason. If the Israelis truly were indigenous to the land on which they live, would they kill indigenous inhabitants of that land like the Palestinians? I think the answer is clearly no. So, in their acts of terrorism, their acts of war against the Gazans, against the Lebanese, and maybe the Iranians tomorrow. The Israelis are simply revealing their lack of heart, their lack of connectedness to the land, the fact that despite any pretensions to the otherwise, if the Jews were ever a chosen people, and honestly, I think that we all are chosen in one way or another. We are all chosen for something. That's why we are here. I see myself as chosen to bring conscientization to the Gazans and to others. Being chosen is not unique. Being chosen is a universal construct. And so, if I am to be chosen, I need to express that chosenness in love for especially indigenous people, such as the indigenous people of Gaza, whose lives, whose land, whose mother has been stolen from beneath their feet. They have no universal mother anymore. Or at least that universal mother is rapidly being taken away from them. And the culprits are my own people, those of Jewish ancestry. I realize I'm not one of those people directly doing it, but I feel a part of the community of Jewry, and thus I see a sense of collective responsibility. And I think to myself, how can I truly love the Gazans unless I am willing to admit my own joint responsibility in what is happening to them right now as I speak. For the time being, this has been Mark by Mark A. Foster, Ph.D. Have a pleasant day and an even better day tomorrow.